Ta-da! And welcome to Josef's Model Railway and Toy Room, which are in another direction. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me. It's one of the Express Series videos, so to speak. You'll still get an official number on this one. We're just going to have a quick little look at what's going on at the moment and why there's some delays on the bigger projects, as will quickly become evident. And also, today's video is all about how we can personalize Lineside cabinets, which are an essential part to anyone that's using a modern day type of signaling. Obviously, we're going to need to have our electrical connections and various communications methods terminating in various cabinets. And I thought, can we make these cabinets just seem a little more interesting? So join me in what is a reasonably quick one today and have a look at this disaster. And as always, I hope you're having a tremendously... So just before we proceed with today's project, you can see things are in quite a bit of disarray. And before I lock you in on that tripod, I thought I might just give you a quick semi-room tour, so to speak, of what's going on. There's a lot going on here that will be explained shortly. Key energy at the moment is finally turning attention to our petroleum depot. So gluing in this picture, as you can see, is the backline we're making a retaining wall here. We really don't have a lot of space here to get what we're trying to do in a feature section. And we've just done a little bit of ballasting that's just waiting to dry now. And we'll come in and get it looking a little more black and oil and nasty and things like that. And as you can see, a little experimentation I did on the roadway there. So I think we'll start creating some interest around here. And then we're going to start with our foam and start laying in faulty towers. So don't stress too much. That's all got a long way to go. But in the interim, you can see we've been working on a semi-abandoned track, which would still carry on from what used to be the main line, which we talked about, that disused section up there, which would have come through and at some point would have not been a shed here. This would have literally been the main line. I'm even thinking about an abandoned station on this half, and it probably went off and is literally just a relic of the past, which we'll come back and work on. You can see I've just dabbed some glue and put our shopping trolleys down into that canal, and we are ready. Once that's dried, we'll give them a week or so. We will commence with our deep pour. One tip regarding the mixing chart and measurements and all of that, I'm only going to be doing one pour, and I've done the calculations anyway, give or take about 5 to 10 mil difference. But honestly, when it comes to this, we'll see in the video, I'm just going to take both and use maximum bottles. They've been calculated out anyway to be the maximum you can provide, which is basically what I need. So we're going to skip away with complex measurements and just use it all up. Whatever we don't need, just chuck out. No one else has said that, I'm telling you that. But today's video, I thought, as you can see, and we'll get that boat out of the way, we've come along with some of our UTX trunking, and you'll notice I did, as we saw in the earlier video, we did just weather some of the what would be the point motors here. So what we're going to do is do a little bit of trunking, but what we need to do is get some cabinets up. Now we've got a couple of cabinets, and these are the ones I particularly like because they're obviously have these elevated feet on them. So I thought what we might do is we're going to have 3 lined up here that would also be then feeding out to service the other 3 that are here, and then obviously down the other end we certainly have another 3. But to get it looking a little better, I thought what we might do is group them up accordingly, and the ones that are farther away, and of course we're still going to have to do something with the points in the petroleum depot, we'll leave the ones that are farther away with their own communication system that they might need to call in and have a quick chat to our friend Carl Carlson, who of course is our signal operator and looking after things here. I've noticed one thing in a lot of other people's videos is how attractive it looks when we have 2 or 3 cabinets lined up as one. So of course, just using some leftover bits, the Wills kit that we had, and we only ever got this kit for that actual opening, which was used here. It's the leftover bits. Now, these little bits of tiling that I've got, I think will look good to edge the top of the retaining wall we're using there behind the petroleum depot. And then the other section, which I thought could be useful, is this bit here of this stone wall bit. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the flat side here. So that's exactly what we've done. We cut some off the sprue. We took a bit of sandpaper to it just to file it down. And we're going to use them in this configuration. So the plan is now with these, we're going to give them a coat of paint. We're going to be using our Vallejo concrete color just to give that a little bit of texture. And then the idea is we're going to take, as we did with Noodle Knocker Junction, take a series of piano wire and stuff it up there and drop it down so it looks like feeds of cord. And then we'll obviously just have them neatly lined up and aligned accordingly. And then we can just pick them up and drop them in where we need. And then they'll interconnect to the trunking, which of course is in this box. And I think we'll create some lovely interest with that. And yes, we're just taking a bit of our wash again. Don't worry about how it goes on, because you sort of rub it down to get what you need after it's dried a bit. So I think you'll agree we end up with some great interest. Another thing just noting, you may have noticed I just dusted some texture here after I did the concrete while the paint was wet, and that's just a little bit of fine sand that was pulled up from a marshy coastal area here that we've certainly talked about and used. And I think it just gives it a little bit of texture of the dust and things that blow up onto these bits of concrete in time. So just takes it up rather than just looking like a piece of plastic with just a lick of paint on it. I think it goes a long way. So we'll leave these to dry and we'll come back and get some cable up into them. So here's a cabinet we've done, and here's one clearly we haven't, and you can see basically what's going on here. So the whole idea is it's been here for about 10-20 minutes. It's still a bit of moisture in it, and we're just going to, just using the fingers is fine, just drag it down, give it that kind of weathered look in the cracks where you'd expect the grime to build up around those air vents over time. I do like the idea that a lot of cabinets these days particularly are using that almost an olive green. I would like to go that way, but I think consistency will pay off to the era that I'm modeling in at the moment. And see there, that really doesn't look all that natural at all. So again, a quick run with the finger. So truly nothing to this. You want to come back and add a bit of color, which we might do in some key areas, or a little dust of rust. That's completely at your discretion. It's mostly because this is elevated with the feet is why I like to do this, to give it just a little bit of clarity. We may even, just on key areas, just across the bottom here, we'll come with a brush and dust in a little bit of brake dust across it. I think would really look outstanding. But that's the story. Our paint's coming in to dry, still a little bit wet on the concrete, but you can see where we've added that little dust there of whatever you prefer to use, a ballast or something like that. I must admit, these little grains of sand, as you can probably see in that picture, just really just the right thickness we want, just a little bit of dust and dirt that sort of blows up over it in time. If you're ever a little concerned, just grab a person and put them onto the scene just to get an idea for where it's looking. You really don't want to have those big sort of ballast stones when really that's not what would be brushing up onto here. So trying something a little bit different this time with attaching the cabinets, we're going to be using a CA cyanoacrylate, or a CA, or super glue as you may know it. And you can see just here I'm brushing on a bit of the CA accelerator, which I must admit does go a long way, especially as opposed to using the PVA, which is tricky to get these to bond quickly. I will admit, I think I might just go for a thicker gel type one for this application in future ones, but this is just what I had available. A bit of craft wire bent backwards and forwards and shoved in the hole. We can trim this down to size when it finds its permanent location, and we take a bit of an olive drab and just leave a few bits pulled across the bottom just to give it that scungy, mossy look. Once again, we take our friend, a bit of pastel, and we're just going to brush this on. Fixative spray is all we're going to use. It's better to use and dilute your PVA mix on here. I'm just going to pop that on for now and let it sit. And while it'll be a little bit tacky and give a matte finish, I can brush a bit of a pico brake dust over it, depending on how close it's sitting to and from my locations. Ta-da! Yes, indeed. Here we go. And ladies and gentlemen, here's just a little bit of a snapshot of what we've ended up with. Shh, shh. Now, I do apologise, of course they're not in their permanent homes just yet, but as you can see, putting them together in this type of fashion is a wonderful way to pick them up, move them, and put them where you need. The reason they're not in their forever home just yet is, of course, coming back to our signal gantries, which did get delayed once again, but will be coming up in a video shortly. And once they've been put into place, the rest of the feature section can be getting underway. But until they're in, there's some key measurements that we don't want to make any guesstimations with. So it's just a quick one in this Express series. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you've come up with a little bit of extra detail. Perhaps you could add some cabling, or as you can see in this particular picture here, here's one where I put a bit of the UTX conduit trunking straight up into it, which is probably going to be trimmed down to size and located into the fuel depot area where the points are for that. We've got something a little bit special coming up with that. So girls and boys, ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you so much for joining me today. Please do stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one. Toodles!